Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Three Principles Global Community webinar. The Three Principles Global Community, or 3PGC, is a nonprofit organization that's committed to bringing an understanding of the three principles to people throughout the world. You can learn more about the Three Principles Global Community at 3pgc.org. And today we are very lucky to have Amy Chen Mills-Naim with us. Amy is a global speaker, a coach, trainer, editor, and author. With her late father, the social scientist Dr. Roger Mills, she co-founded the nonprofit Center for Sustainable Change and served as its executive director and education director for a decade. In this role, she raised nearly $1 million in funding for principles-based innate resiliency programs across the U.S. Amy spent part of her childhood on Salt Spring Island in British Columbia, where her father became a student of philosopher Mr. Sidney Banks. Besides the principles, Amy's spiritual study from a young age have spanned a wide range of teachers, authors, and traditions. And you can read more about Amy and the programs that she offers at amychen.com. And that will be also posted below the YouTube video. For anybody watching afterwards, or if you're not writing it down right now. So Amy, thank you so much for agreeing to join us on a webinar, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what you have to say.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, so I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. I just wanted to say that the Amy in Amy Chen is with an I, so that people know how to get to the website if they want to. And other than that, I want to say welcome. I know that we have it looks like a small group this morning that will be a bigger group when we get to YouTube. So I'm going to be speaking to however many people are here, and then also knowing that there's a wider audience out there that will be joining in. And I think the topic today is so universal and so worthwhile for everyone. Identity, insecurity, and true love. So what I thought I would do is just say some things from my heart this morning that occur to me as I reflect on those three topics. And then really the people here that are live, you bring the agenda. It doesn't really matter what topic I'm speaking about. When there's a burning question in you, that's the most important thing. So whether you have a question already that you've brought, or whether whatever I say brings up something in you, your questions and your comments and your insights are most welcome. I don't come as a teacher on a pedestal. I don't come as someone who has made it somewhere in particular. I come to you as a human being, just like you, in the sense that what I speak about, what you've been listening to yourself, maybe you've been teaching yourself, these are human issues. They're human, spiritual being issues. And in my experience in life, there's no end. There's no end to the discovery of a new form of thought, or a new level of understanding, or a new seeing through something that perhaps has bound you, has kept you enslaved to your thought system. And life, in my experience, shows up sometimes to literally throw you to your knees to say, and this too, is this something that you think holds your well-being? And for those of you that have been on this journey for some time, for those of you who have asked for truth to come into your life, particularly you, life will show up to say, here's another invitation to freedom. Here's another invitation to discover that actually what you are, your well-being, is beyond any circumstance in life. Your capacity to love, to to find true love, to be true love, is beyond any circumstance in life and beyond any thought that you have about who you are, what your identity is, what your limitations are, and what your insecurities are. So, how do we discover this true love that we're speaking of today? What has also been called innate well-being, what has also been called our mental health, what has also been called our inner wisdom. How do we discover this more deeply? And how does identity play into this discovery? Well, I'll share my thoughts. And again, I'm happy to hear your thoughts as well and your questions. Identity is what we think of ourselves. And it's really that simple. But something simple can create, as Sydney Banks has said, something very complex. And so what that means is that we identify ourselves in thought as a personality, as what's been called an ego, as a particular role that we may play as a teacher, as a mother, as a wife, as a husband, as a professional, as a leader, as someone who has some responsibility for something, as a writer, as a sexual person, as a powerful person, whatever it is, as a beautiful person. That's all identity. That's all within the realm of identity. And it's all a thought creation. It is this identity that rears its ugly head, you know, when the going gets tough. Do you know what I mean? Like when there's a bump in the road. And just speaking for myself personally, you know, I've been in a marriage for almost 30 years, and there have been times when I've had, you know, my crises in the marriage, and my husband has had his crises in the marriage, you know, like midlife crises or whatever it is. And suddenly the identity is threatened. I realized over the summer that I had a strong identity as a married woman, you know, and what that means in society. I had a strong identity as a, you know, a family person, a mother. And suddenly I saw that that could change in an instant. And the insecurity that arose because my identity was being threatened was phenomenal. It was like almost a feeling of dying. You know, what if I'm not this identity anymore? And yet we know all of us have experienced some loss, you know, some heartbreak and change of circumstance. I mean, finances can disappear, marriages can end, people die. I mean, I have a friend on Facebook who just posted that, you know, one of her friends lost their infant this week, and another one of her friends lost their teenage son this week. And my heart just went out to her because, well, and particularly the families, because this, of course, is a tragedy and a heartbreak and a huge loss. And yet, no one escapes life as it is. That there is loss, that there is heartbreak, that there is impermanence, that there is a coming and going of all form, including this form of the body. So I don't say that to, you know, depress everybody. Oh shit, really? There's a way that we can want to just escape that reality, you know, like we don't want to think about that. And then life will show up to say, hey, guess what? This is what happens, you know? So if we can accept the invitation from life to see through identity, to see through insecurity as it's related to identity, and it's always related to identity, always. Then we can discover what we are. That there's a vastness to our being, that there's if we don't want to get too sort of out there, we can just say that we are well-being in the face of every circumstance. And that doesn't mean that we don't go through intense emotions and fears, and that will happen in the face of loss for most people. It will happen. But to go open-hearted into those experiences, to go in with the simple faith that there's something in you that you've already discovered. You've already discovered, and if you've been lucky, you've discovered this without the crisis of a heartbreak or a loss or a financial disaster. For some people, that's when the spiritual awakening process begins, is with that, being thrown to one's knees. Because there's no other option but to say, I don't know anymore, where well-being comes from. And in this discovery of what we are, we discover that our capacity for love has never been broken and can never be broken. The fact that we actually are love. We discover that we can still find love, that we can still offer love, and that we can still rest in a beautiful feeling of love and gratitude for simply what is. This moment. The presence of a loved one, or the presence of a bird chirping, or the presence of the little dog looking at you with love and adoration. And then you discover, that's me. So I know it can feel challenging because we get this deep conditioning about what it means to deserve love in this world, like that we should be successful, that this is thought, this is all thought, that we should be in a relationship, that we should be respected, that we should be, X, Y, or Z, you fill in the blanks. This is what I need to feel good about myself, to be loved. And yet when you think of little children, there's great love there. Great love in them. It's unconditional at the beginning. It doesn't matter who they are. They're nobody. They have no relationship. They go moment to moment, There's a relationship in the park, and then there's a relationship in school. And of course, there's the parent relationship, which is essential in this world of form. That's true too. But they're thinking about what is needed to be loved has not developed. So they live in a state of love and gratitude for life, for the most part, most kids. So that's what I'm speaking of when I speak of true love. And I'm not the expert. I sometimes have moments of great feelings or emotions, or you could say suffering, or no. I do. But the difference for me, and possibly for you, I hope for you as well, is that now we can face these moments without, I've got to face this moment, or no, I can't face this moment, or let me go distract myself so that I don't have to face this moment. But we can face this moment knowing that it's a wave of thought. It's a wave of thoughts of identity. It's a wave of thoughts of insecurity. And it'll be tempting to perhaps believe those thoughts, but we know by the feeling that the thoughts are not true. And so we can sit within the tidal wave or the Mavericks wave. We have Mavericks, the big wave area here, just north of us, north of Santa Cruz. Or even just sort of the waves that hit us, boom, boom, boom. They aren't that big. But when any wave hits us, we can understand that the wave just looks like something, but actually it's the ocean. And actually we are one with that ocean and not separate. So life can be a challenge, but my invitation in this webinar, at least, and I think in a lot of my work, is just to say, what is it that is frightened? What is it that feels afraid? And it's always the identity, which wants to control the past and the future and make sure that everything's okay, that everything will be secure by, sort of like getting it all lined up and making sure people love us and making sure everything is going to be like we think we want it to be. So when crises arises, it's just another opportunity to let go of the past and to let go of the future and to see what is still here and what is still us, or to discover that for the first time. So I welcome you as fellow human beings in this boat together called human beingness. I welcome you to this webinar, and I welcome your questions or thoughts or anything that's going on with you. I understand that your question may be recorded, but your name and your face will not be.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
I'm calling from Salt Spring Island.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. It's a very wet, rainy one today. But yeah. I'm very excited to be going to the school coming up.
Okay. Do you live on Salt Spring? Or are you just there for the school?
No, I live here.
Okay. Well, that's easy for you.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, how I've lived here for about 10 years, but the way I was introduced to the principal was through your podcast on the front porch.
Oh, wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, and I just really want to thank you, well, for all of the material that I've been listening to from you, but today it's particularly relevant for me. I'm definitely going through one of those waves, and yeah, it's very helpful to just see how the insecurities have a lot to do with this with the identities that I have. Yeah, that's helpful for me to look at it in that way. And I think, yeah, right now I think I mostly sort of perked up when you were talking about accessing the innate health and inner wisdom. I know that is true, but so often it's easy to forget that. And a lot of times I start wondering whether I'm still just having a lot of intellectual understanding.
Mm.
And I haven't seemed to have reached that point where I know it's the innate wisdom talking and not something else.
Mm.
So yeah, maybe if you can talk a little bit more about that.
Well, when you say, I don't know if it's the innate wisdom talking, innate wisdom doesn't always talk, you know?
Yeah.
And do you feel moments sometimes of just peace, or have you felt moments of peace in the past?
I have.
Hmm.
But I guess what I'm looking for is feeling those moments when I'm pointed in a certain direction.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'll often, you know, when I have a challenge that I need to find a solution for.
Mm.
Sometimes, like, I'll have like this big flash of, oh wow, yeah, that's what I should do. But I think that's coming from somewhere else.
Mm.
You know, it's not that peaceful feeling. It's more that sort of, wave of kind of energy. And it's like, oh yeah, that's gotta be. So I've started to sort of associate that with, oh, well, that must be, you know, that just came to me. So perhaps that's an insight, and that's where I should head.
Mm-hmm.
Then, you know, after starting to go in that direction, and, you know, maybe even before I do anything to follow whatever that idea is, it occurs to me, well, no, that's just really bad. You know, it's a really bad thing to do or say, or, you know.
Mm.
So yeah,
Mm.
struggling.
Yeah, well, you know, we all get these kind of flashes of energy, like, oh God, that would be great. And in fact, I know more people who have more good ideas than not, you know, more ideas about what they'd like to be doing with their lives. And I know a lot of people who try to do a lot of those all at once, and that would include me in the past. And what I've found with that is there can be this energy, and it's also related to the future, like, oh, and then I'll feel fulfilled, and then I'll be in my correct role, and then I'll be, you know, being in service and so forth. And you just want to take a look at that, because fulfillment isn't in the future. You know, there's nothing that the future will offer you, no matter what you're doing, that is not being offered now. And then when you start to really get that, that's where the truth is. It's in the now. It's not about finding insights so that our future can be better. I mean, that's it has its role, and you'll find your way, because you've already said that, oh gosh, I have all these thoughts and it feels good, but then I'm not quite settled. And then when you get settled, you'll kind of see, oh, that's the one, you know, just in terms of life in the world of form, you know, what you're doing in the world of form. You want to be painting, or do you want to be teaching, or do you want to stop teaching, or whatever it is. That's fine to, you know, go to your guidance for that. And that's good. But there's something deeper about this innate wisdom, which is that really you can't escape from this moment. And so when uncomfortable feelings arise, like you're saying that I think I might have an intellectual understanding. We may want to get in there with our intellect and figure it out and think about, is this wisdom or is this, but what about just stopping? You know, trying to analyze and just coming into the present means really almost in a way coming into your body. Do you know how people say, oh, I want to get back into my body? I didn't know what that meant, because haven't been a body-oriented person, and certainly my father was not. You know, he was just all three principles all the time, and the principles to me relate very much to the body, because thought affects the body, affects the whole system. But once a thought has happened, can we be present, quote unquote, in the body or in this moment with just the feeling? If it's anxiety, if it's really just an energy of some kind, you know, it might be restlessness, it might be sadness, fear, anger. Rather than thinking about how can I find my wisdom to get out of this, or what am I missing? What if you already have what you're missing? And it's underneath. It's at the core of what you're experiencing in this moment. Now, here, exactly as you are. Insecurities or not, identity or not. We all have these thoughts. But what is here for all of us? Already here. Already you. Even as the intellect is running.
Yeah. No, I can see what you're pointing to, and it's, I think I'm looking. In the past, I've been looking for. Yeah, I guess I've been looking for something external. You know, I want that spirit guide saying, "Okay, do this." And
what if there is no one outside? I mean, look, life shows up to support us inside, outside. It's the same. You know, when we need support, when we truly pray for support, we get it. You know, this dog is my support. You know, my mother, my books show up, and then there's the internal. It's all pointing you back inside. If it shows up outside, it's to point you back to you. Because it's all you anyway. It's you bringing yourself home, taking yourself by the hand, until there is no this self, that self. You're in a wonderful place. You're about to go into the school, so you'll have wonderful support. And I would just encourage you to surrender to that support. Like you don't need to think. Just allow support to be whatever you go through, more anxiety or sadness or worry, just let life support you. Let the island support you. We don't feel support. We don't feel it's ourselves. We don't feel that support until we let go of it's like when let's say you're like someone's, you've jumped off a tall building, right? And you're holding on to the ledge, and you're holding on because you need to save yourself, right? But then there's all these people who have actually got like a big, huge, what do they call it? Like a trampoline thing that they save you with, and they're right, like they've lifted it up. So now it's like 2 feet under you, but you're hanging on. That's what our thoughts are like when we're trying to figure it out.
Yeah, that's definitely what I'm experiencing right now, and
Yeah.
I'm not feeling supported, and yeah, like it's letting go is easier said than done.
Yeah. Well, what are you afraid of? Let's just, I'm curious. What are you afraid will happen if you let go yourself of trying to get to well-being? Or what if you let go? What would happen? What are you afraid of?
Well, right now it's very situational sorts of things. Like
Mm.
I need to find a new place to live by the end of June, and it's not looking good, and so there's a lot of insecure thinking about, well, just sort of practicality.
Yes.
And but also about what it means. I have two small kids, and so it's bringing up all kinds of ideas about me not being able to support them and not being a good mother, and all all these thoughts that are coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, I understand, how understandable that is. It's just it's so understandable. And it's okay to let go. Doesn't mean you won't look for housing. It doesn't mean you won't take care of your kids. It's about all these extra thoughts. I'm so much about the future. Oh, it could be really, really bad. Who knows? It could be really, really fantastic. We don't know. Why worry? There's certain things, practical things, and the ideas will come, and you'll know they'll feel right. When you have that calmer feeling, you'll feel it. And support is here. Support is where you are. Support is this island. Support will be whoever's speaking, Chip and Elsie, Jan at the school, whoever else, the people there. Will all be support. You are surrounded. You can't escape. God bless you. You got to send me an email later, okay? Okay. Oh. Okay, so anyone else? Well, we might be ending early this time. Maybe that's a good thing. Anyone else? Really, there's no question that's too, crazy or dumb, or even personal. I mean, your name will not be revealed. I know maybe it's too much with the going on YouTube, but.
Hi, Amy.
Hi.
Yeah, this is actually a really good couple of topics here for me. Because about 3 months ago, my wife kind of left me unexpectedly, and she chose she chose a very difficult path for herself, to say the least. And the first 6 weeks or so, I was just destroyed. And I mean, the strange part was, though, underneath all of those different emotions that I was going through, all the different feelings that I had, I still had the feeling that everything was already okay.
Oh.
There was nothing I needed to do to make it better. And I think that what that allowed me to do was actually just let those feelings flow
Mm.
and realize that I didn't have to do anything to change it. That
Mm.
at some point it would change.
Mm.
And the Monday after Easter, I woke up with a bunch of insights, and one of the biggest ones was that I was creating all of my own suffering.
Mm.
And when you were talking about identity, it hit me that that's really what most of my suffering was about. You know, who was I now? I'm no longer the husband. I'm no longer the best friend. I'm no longer this. I'm no longer that.
Mm.
And it kind of hit me that it wasn't so much her leaving that I was upset with. It was that my expectations of her being there were no longer being met.
Mm. Well,
And
look,
it's
honey, I had these expectations, okay?
right. I mean, we were together for almost 17 years.
Wow.
So, you know, and nothing pointed to anything being wrong. So there was nothing leading up to it, like we were fighting and stuff like that. In fact, I think it was the absence of fighting that ended up creating the problem for her,
Mm.
because she was so used to having drama and stuff going on in her life
Mm.
that, you know, since I came across the principles, I stopped arguing with her. We stopped, I mean, that drama wasn't there anymore.
Mm.
And now she's found it somewhere else,
Mm.
you know, and it's been such an amazing experience. And I'm actually glad that I've gone through it.
Mm.
You know, I've experienced so much growth from it and had so many insights. And it's, I've actually, I can honestly say for the first time in my life that I love myself.
Mm.
And I realized that I'm never going to be alone. I'm never going to be without love as long as I'm here.
Mm.
It's such a beautiful thing.
Wow. Well, I'm not going to say your name because we're keeping it anonymous on the recording, but, you know, thank you for your story. You know, people go through this all the time, and the temptation is to want to blame. You created this. I had expectations. We had a contract. And yes, I mean, it'd be nice if people, you know, cared about our feelings and so on, but, you know, they're so caught up in their own pain and suffering that's the truth for them, is that they need to escape, or, you know, they need to, that's what they think. And that's just honestly what they think. To see that is so beautiful, because then you get to see your innocence, which means, you know, you get to love yourself again. And even when there's been mistakes, right? There'll be, oh, I could have done this. I could have done that. Maybe I should have. Oh, well, you know, like we didn't.
Well, that was actually the first the first thing that crossed my mind when I found out she was leaving, was that she must be in a lot of pain to want to do this.
Mm. And then your heart breaks open for them, you know, in the best way. And then then there's love. That's it. That's what you've been looking for. And there it is. In your aloneness, your physical aloneness, but not alone inside.
Yeah.
Good for you. That's an incredible story. I'm really glad we've got it actually on this recording. Yeah, good for you.
It's really, like I said, it's really just it's turned out to be a really beautiful thing.
Yeah.
I mean, actually, it's funny that Monday after Easter, when I had those insights, I mean, literally everything changed. My whole experience of life changed.
Mm.
And I actually had people really concerned about me. They thought I'd had some kind of, I was told that I had a psychotic break from reality and all those kinds of things, because I was just suddenly happy.
This was, you say after the breakup, and you said right after Easter, you had these insights.
Yeah, it was about 6 weeks after she left.
Okay.
And I went from, I mean, honestly, I was suicidal. I was depressed. I mean, I was a wreck.
Mm.
And then suddenly I was okay.
Mm.
I mean, literally overnight. It's amazing the power that insights have. And I mean, when they come, you just know.
Mm.
There's no questioning it.
Yeah,
If you have
because
to question it, it's probably not an insight. It's probably not wisdom.
well, it's because it's truth and it's love. And you can't separate them.
Yeah. And I don't feel any anger toward her. I don't feel any negative feelings toward her at all. You know, I know that at some point, well, it already has for me at least, but it'll work out the best way for both of us.
Oh.
Whatever direction that takes.
I think you shared your insights a little bit earlier in your talking, but what were the insights, just for the sake of the group and the people listening?
Well, some of it I still can't put into words, and I'm honestly not trying. But
Sure.
like I said, the biggest thing was around creating all of my own suffering, and that I can be at least reasonably happy, even if my circumstances don't look like they should allow for that. I mean, a 17-year relationship ending is definitely a good reason to go off the deep end if you want to.
Yes, you have every excuse.
Right. And I used those excuses for a few weeks. I really did.
Yes.
You know, I mean, I even started drinking again. I picked up cigarettes again. I mean, I started doing all the stupid things, reaching outside.
Yeah.
But all the while feeling that calmness beneath that, and knowing that it will pass. I didn't have to do anything to make those feelings come on, and I don't have to do anything to make them go away. They'll come and go in their own time. As I mean, I don't know if processing emotions is really the right terminology, but just letting them flow, just letting things happen as they are.
That's because there will be a sense of loss, you know, it's almost inevitable. There was someone in the space with you, and now that someone is not there. It's like someone died, you know. So there'll be waves. I remember when my father passed away, there'd be a wave of loss and of, oh, well, we'll never get to do that. Always related to the future, the past, right? But still just very natural. I mean, just very human. And then there'd be a wave of maybe regret. And then there'd be a wave of feeling freedom, because my life was very tied into his, and as he was dying, you know, and I needed to tend to him and to the Center for Sustainable Change, and because he wasn't around to be helping with that. And so then there'd be a sense of great freedom, and then there'd be a sense, and then there would just be peace of mind, with nothing to do and nothing to think about past or future, and in that peace of mind, in the nowness. And I'd notice the bees in the grass, and I just notice life again. I'd be in life again, and then in that moment I felt like I hadn't lost him, because that's what the now is, right? It's love and connection beyond form.
Right. Other thing that hit me that day was I realized all the things that I'd given up in an attempt to make her happy. All the things that I used to love to do for myself, to take care of myself, and I'd stopped doing them to take care of her. You know, and I got back into riding bikes, and I went golfing again for the first time in 16 years. And, you know, I mean, I just started doing things for me, and it's like, man, I miss me. You know what I mean? I'd spent so much time trying to worry about what would, you know, keep her happy, which I know isn't even possible anyway. But I didn't realize just how much I was doing that until she was gone. I mean,
It's
there's
hard.
so
It's hard
much,
to
so
miss
much good has actually
yourself.
come out of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You stop missing yourself. You're back. You're reunited. You have a new relationship. And in that newness of freedom and truth, I mean, there is some thinking around not just three principles, but a lot of spiritual paths or self-help groups, or communities, that relationships need to stay as they are. People should stay. And there can be a thought that, if we just change our thinking, we'll be able to stay in any relationship. And on some level that's true, but on another level it's just not. One of my favorite teachers is Gangaji, and she has said something that really resonated with me once, which was, the truth will either save your relationship or end it. The relative truth, meaning the truth for both people, at this time. And it's not about making sure the relationship stays in the form that it's in, although I think there are good reasons to attempt to do that when there are children, and there's certainly, but sometimes that's not where truth is going. And maybe you'll end up back with this woman, or who knows, but in your cleansing, your refreshing within yourself that you speak of, you're going to be ready for the next one.
Right.
When it's time.
Well, something else that really, came out of this was realizing that it's not a very reasonable thing to expect to be with one person in any kind of relationship for your entire life.
Mm.
To think that, this has to be the one forever.
Mm.
And it got me kind of thinking about past relationships, not even, romantic, but just even friends that came and went.
Mm.
And people who maybe came into my life at a time when I needed them to be there. And then when I no longer needed them, they were gone.
Well,
Nothing bad happened,
Yeah, I'm going to say a couple of things about that, okay? Because I'd like to share these ideas. One is that a relationship, when you are interested in truth and freedom, can be a wonderful teacher, because a relationship will challenge your ego, both to let go of all the things you think you need, but then also sometimes to step up into, no, that's too much to ask. It can be the fire that burns, your identity. And there's something very, I think, precious about that shared friendship, that's worth a certain amount of commitment, and that's worth just checking in. Is this ego or not? Is this my ego, or is this truly wisdom about maybe leaving or separating, or whatever it is you're thinking about? So I just want to say that I know Sid had great respect for relationships. I mean, he used to offer discounts for couples, and he just loved that people could be together, because there's a way that a relationship challenges us to be true to love and not true to the ego. To let go of what we think we need to be happy, but not happiness itself, and not being a doormat either. Not just saying yes because you're afraid. That's something different. And as you say, in your position where someone has simply left, sounds like you were doing the best you could. Then to see the impermanence of all relationship in form is so valuable. So I thank you. I thank you for.
And this was right after I took care of her for about 5 months. She became really ill and wasn't able to walk. And She spent time in a hospital and a rehabilitation center and a few months at home in bed, and I took care of her through all of
Yeah.
it. And then when she was well enough to go on her own, she just left.
When she learned she could walk again, she walked right out the door.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, it's
But it's okay. I really hope she's actually happy where she's at. Even
yes, and
though I can look at her circumstances and say that wouldn't make me happy, even though I know circumstances don't make you happy, but
Mhm.
you know, she's in a pretty rough place right now. And I mean, she's homeless and she's with a violent, abusive man,
Oh gosh.
but she seems genuinely happy. So
Okay,
who am
well,
I to who am I to choose what, you know, what's right for her?
yeah. Well, I want to see if we can maybe get one more question in
Yep.
before the end, because I know we end at the top of the hour. But I just wanted to add one thing, because I think that this webinar has been a lot about relationship. Um, any effort you put into loving is not wasted, whether you're in relationship or not. And I'm speaking to everyone now, that if someone has left you and you continue to find love in your heart for them, that's for you, and that is not wasted. Whether they come back or don't come back, whatever happens to them, that's for you, because that's your invulnerability. That's you discovering your true invulnerability. You know, encased in your heartbreaking vulnerability is your unbelievable invulnerability. So thank you. Anyone else? So we've got like 5 minutes, and I think we can go over a bit. We'll just see. I would like to just talk about one thing before we close, and because I think it's so human, it's so common. You know, when we talk about thoughts or subconscious thoughts or unrecognized thoughts or invisible thoughts, and it has to do with identity, which is it seems to me, in my experience, that there's this core thought that we all have, or most of us do, that is about how we are not worthy, how we are not invulnerable, and how we are not okay. And I don't know how or why we pick this up. It seems to be part of the human condition. I mean, we have generations, eons of suffering because of this. And so I invite you to see that as thought. Who are you, and where is your worthiness when you're not thinking of yourself or worthiness at all? With all the mistakes and all the problems and all the embarrassments and all the bad things we may have done or that we think are bad. Beneath all of that, an unbreakable worthiness, which is called just being alive. We're here. We're part of life. We're not responsible for our worthiness. It's a done deal. And then you can go out and just do the best you can. That's all we could do.
Does anyone else have a question for Amy before we end? give it a minute. I really want to thank you. There's so much of what you said that really touched me. One thing keeps playing in my head is I'm probably going to butcher this, but this is what I heard, that there is nothing in the future that is not on offer now. Yeah, I really like that.
Well, super good.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Thank you all who attended live.
Bonnie, can I just make an announcement? Would that be okay?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. As we're coming to the end, I could feel it wrapping. I just wanted to invite people to the website at amychen.com. It's AMICHEN.com. And the podcasts are now the podcasts from my old radio show, On the Front Porch with Amy Chen, are all up on the website. And we have new things happening in the United States, new retreats, a new wisdom school for personal grounding and professional development. So I just invite people to go there. That's what I'm doing now, and now that I'm no longer with the Center for Sustainable Change. So I wanted to put that in.
Great. Yeah, and I will, I said this in the beginning, but I will post Amy's website underneath the YouTube video, so you'll be able to find her. Yeah, thank you so much. And
thank you.
I just want to tell everybody that the next webinar is June 22nd, and that's with Dr. Bill Pettit. So hope to see you all then as well. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.